The human being has the right to everything it provides. The universe, any fear deep down is fear of death. That is to say, everything depends on the purpose, on the existential conception that the human being has. Either you allow yourself to be dominated by a materialistic, mistaken ego, or you are aware of your supraconsciousness, and he who acts with supraconsciousness becomes rich and powerful. Today, in Eternal Life, Answers of That Science, let's answer a selection among the thousands of questions we receive through social networks.
How is it possible that supraconsciousness has no power over the ego and appeases it?
Supraconsciousness, it has much more power than the ego. What happens is that supraconsciousness, along with supraconsciousness, we have a property which is fundamental, which is free will. It is the freedom, the real freedom. It only provides it to the supraconsciousness. The ego has tremendous weapons to cover up, to camouflage, to prevent supraconsciousness from manifesting itself. Who are you? The ignorance people don't know things, the fondness for the material, the selfishness, and the fear, any fear deep down is fear of death. So, the ego is afraid of death, precisely because it knows that with death, it will disappear. It is the materialistic identity proper to local or neuronal consciousness. Therefore, the ego tries to do not manifest. And we have the freedom to choose one path or choose another. Everything depends on us. We have the freedom to let ourselves be dominated and continue with the ego, or we have the freedom to say enough. I want to control the ego. In the human dimension, we will always have it, but we have to control it. This is freedom, and act accordingly to supraconsciousness. That supraconsciousness always acts through the archetypes of Platon, Kant, and Jung. And that is to say, they are a very positive life dynamic in which there is empathy, altruism, kindness, justice, love. These are the archetypes, the life dynamics of supraconsciousness. Instead, the ego leads us to success, fame, wealth, power, dominance. And to achieve this, what dynamic does it have? Jealousy, envy, aggression, violence, wars, death. This is the difference. And we have the freedom to go to one place or go to another. Everything depends on us.
From meditation, do patterns seen in near-death experience repeat themselves?
If patterns repeat, obviously, it depends on the degree of depth in which one can reach the meditation. My situation and my training in this sense is very little developed. So, what I notice is that I enter a field that leaves the three-dimensional field. It is this feeling of expansion, of openness, of loving brotherhood with the whole universe. The universe is all connected. Everything originated the same, the material. It's the Big Bang. Life, supraconsciousness, is the first consciousness. Everything is the same. Everything is connected. I contact this. Now, I don't have enough capacity or training to go deeper and be able to explain what a patient with a near-death experience has to say. The patient near death does comment on what happens to me in the incipient stage, that he also notices this feeling of expansion and brotherhood with the whole universe. He also tells this in the midst of a near-death experience.
The Tibetan Book of the Dead speaks of different states of evolution, how to know in which state each person is. According to those theories?
This is a situation that is already on the plane of physical death. The Tibetan Book of the Dead has three fundamental parts. The introduction, which is the passage from life to death, which explains all the processes of the passage from life to death. The intermediate zone, which is precisely when the karma, the soul that we have said, comes into play. That is because of its cause-effect. How was the evolution during three-dimensional life? At what level of evolution is it? If the level is very high, it goes straight to absolute. If the level is not high, go back to the third chapter. What is the reincarnation? He re-enters cycles of samsara, life, death, reincarnation. These are the three chapters. Obviously, I'm commenting on what I've read, what I've been told. I do not reach these deep situations. I want to insist. I am neither a seer nor a medium, nor do I reach these deep situations.
If you can have ambition for wealth, and at the same time be connected to superconsciousness, if you can,
the human being has the right to everything it provides. The universe, everything. All the comforts and all the wealth. But as long as it is not an objective or an end. If your life, it turns only to achieve this end, it is dominated by the ego. Instead, yes, because he is an honest, hardworking, smart person, he gets great wealth in an honest way, following the ethical principles, the archetypes we have said before, he has every right to enjoy all the wealth. Everything in the world is for the enjoyment of the human being. The important thing is how you get it and what means he uses to achieve it and what purpose he has in his life. If I sacrifice my life, everything, just to be rich, powerful, I am dominated by the ego. If I am an honest person, worker, and I earn a lot of money and I'm rich, enjoy it, I have every right. That is to say, everything depends on the purpose, on the existential conception that the human being has. It just depends on this. Or you allow yourself to be dominated by the materialistic, misguided ego. Or are you aware of your superconsciousness? And he who acts with supraconsciousness becomes rich and powerful because supraconsciousness has impressive power. It is omniscient. That is to say, he knows the ways to achieve it, but he will never harm or go against the archetypes.
This explains, Manuel, that some of the great entrepreneurs of recent years, such as, for example, Steve Jobs, at the time, he shared that one of the books he had on his night table was the autobiography of a yogi, which talks precisely about this topic.
Totally. Steve Youngs has one of the books of a yogi, which is the book which is in every university in the United States, which is the autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. He is a great, great yogi who went to the United States, and there he developed, explained and extended the need for meditation. These people, great entrepreneurs who achieve impressive companies, these people are acting on intuition. The intuition, it's what we wrongly call hunch. It's knowing exactly the right path to follow. For sure it's that one, and you're never wrong, and that the prey, without intellectual rationing, come to you spontaneously. It is your supraconsciousness that is talking to you. These people who reach these great levels of development are tremendously intuitive people. That is to say, they are people who are governed by their supraconsciousness.
Science will come to explain the phenomena that, in the autobiography of a yogi, are they described?
I am convinced that we will achieve it because we are saying and we have proven that everything is energy. Our superconsciousness is energy. Everything is energy. And our ability to perceive energy at the moment, we can only perceive the effects and interactions of energies, of subatomic particles. But there will come a time when we will be able to perceive it. I am convinced of this. It will be one of two very important evolutionary processes of the human being, and that will help enormously to understand our existential conception.
Have you had any of these experiences?
Not at all. I didn't have any experience. My knowledge has always been based on what my patients have referred me to. What as I always said, is that it motivated a lot of great interest. Knowing the near-death experience of my patients. And then this great interest motivated me to investigate deeply with the bibliography, asking experts in other disciplines. because I was extremely interested to see the incongruity between my knowledge based on the scientific method and the possibility that a dead person told me about a series of experiences with the typical characteristics of an experience. There was a total incongruity between my knowledge and the experiences of my patients. This piqued my interest, but I, personally, have never had a close experience. I have contacted my supraconsciousness. I can say this. But I have contacted, and it is noticeable through meditation, because you notice a feeling of expansion, of openness, that a note that is part of the whole universe. What is the universe that is lovingly united to everything? There is immense love. I have noticed this because I've been taking courses for a long time, and I've been meditating for a long time, and in meditation, at certain moments, you come into contact with your supraconsciousness. But I haven't had a full near-death experience.
Now, is society ready for active doctors to start explaining these things? Yes, more and more.
For example, when I began to review and study this phenomenon, there was no functional magnetic resonance. Now, I had a functional MRI. A neuroradiologist who performs a functional magnetic resonance imaging on a patient with a near-death experience, and who, when he explains an object to him, sees that the occipital lobe is being activated, he is the first to say, "This man saw this. He has memory of this object." Then the patient will say, "Hey, I've never seen this object before. I was dead, and I moved to whatever distance you want, and I saw him there, and I never saw him again. How can you say that I have memory?" So, I had to admit that something at the exit of this dead body. He has been there and seen it. I don't know what it is. The scientific method does not explain it. Quantum mechanics already gives me reasons to be able to equate and reason the similarities between one situation and another. But there we already have scientific objects, clear evidence, which are showing us that we are more than body and mind, that our life is not reduced to body and mind, that after physical death, there is something that endures, which is our true identity. And they have to accept this. And they fall, they accept it. Aren't ego and self-love the same thing? Ego and self-love. Self-love is self-esteem to a certain extent. I believe that if self-esteem is governed by some basic principles based on supraconsciousness, it seems to me that it is essential to have self-esteem. If one does not love himself, he can never love others. Educating someone is stimulating their self-esteem. How is it done? Convincing, not winning. And what is the weapon? It's love. This is how children should be educated. So self-esteem is loving yourself. Instead, be careful. If this self-esteem is for to have power over others and take advantage of others, the ego already intervenes. We are here. We have already touched another totally different ground.
His mission as head of the surgery department at Belviche Hospital, is it similar to the mission you have now?
My way of acting, it was different at that time. He was more immature. My ego prevailed more. The surgeon has a lot of ego. I admit it, I have a lot of ego. Ego means selfishness, thinking for one, wanting to stand out, wanting to achieve. We have a lot of it, surgeons. Now I think in a totally different way. But what if these principles instilled in me what we said before in character, which I will always remember, with all the affection and thanks to my parents. They instilled in me some basic principles, some basic values. What is respect is love. It is dignity. All these principles that I have instilled and that my parents instilled in me, these I have always tried maintain, and that were very present in my service. When I retired in my service, they gave me a party and told me things and gave me things. But they told me one that I liked the most. He says, if he goes, a good man, a good person, this is what I like the most.